Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to create this awesome website that you see right here with only Bootstrap and one HTML file, and you don't need any additional file of JavaScript or CSS for using and creating this website. You can see we got this awesome navbar right here, which is sticky to the top, so we can move around in the website and it's still at the top. And it's got this drop down of pricing as well as these items and logo and brand name. And even it got this open sidebar, which if we click, it's going to open this awesome sidebar for us, which we can close by this X button, or we can close by clicking anywhere else in our web page. And it's actually responsive, so if width of our device is lower than a certain point, it's going to come to this mobile version and we can click this and it's going to open like hamburger menu. And again, we got this pricing and sidebar right here too. And after this item, you can see we got these features and cards right here. We got some little form that we can submit, and then we got this awesome accordion right here, which you can open number 1, number 2 at the same time. And if you want to open number 3, it's going to close both of the above ones and open only this. And then we got this awesome cards with image, we got this awesome best and new badges next to their titles. And at last we got this open model that if we click on this, you can see we got this beautiful modal, which if we click anywhere else, it's going to grow and grab our attention for itself. And we can only close it by using this X button or close right here. And if you want to fully understand this video, it's good to know HTML and CSS before. And if you don't know them, I have video of full web development, which I'm going to give you the link in the description and card at the top that you can watch first. But if you don't know them, still you can create this awesome website with me in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's jump into the video. Well, at first we got our VS Code right here, and here we need to add project to our workspace, which I'm going to create this folder in my desktop, which is this Bootstrap website. And we can select this folder, and here we can start creating our files. And the file that we need to have is of course our index.html, and we need some image in our folder too, so I'm going to create another folder. And this is going to contain our image. I'm going to name this assets folder, and inside of this I'm going to have these 3 images, which you can see those are these images right here. And if you want the same image to use in your project, you can click the link in the description to move to the GitHub repository containing all of the files and codes that we're going to write here. So let's close our file explorer and come into our index.html. Of course, at first we got the simple template of starting, and then here in the title we can change this. For example, in our case we want to name this Webco Corp. And now it's time to add our Bootstrap. And for that, here in Google you can search simply this Bootstrap. And you can see this site comes up, and if you click on this, it moves you to Bootstrap's website. And here at the top, you can see we got this docs. And if we click on this, you can see we got our simple documentation of our Bootstrap. And here at quick start, it's going to give us this tutorial on how we can include Bootstrap in our files. And for adding Bootstrap, what we need to do is having the simply link tag right here below of the title. So we're going to grab this item from here, and we come into our code and paste that right here. And after that, what we need to do is come here and grab these 2 script tags right here. And again, we're going to put that here outside of our body. And now our Bootstrap is okay, and we can use that on our website. And for using this, I'm going to use Live Server, which is a cool extension that you can use. So if you come here into extensions, you can search for Live Server, and here it is. You can install this. And this is basically going to help us for seeing what we are coding, and we don't need to refresh our web page each time to see what's going on in our files. And for using this, what we need to do is simply right clicking on this index.html and then use this open with Live Server. And here you can see we got our blank page, and if we test this, for example, we have this h1 of simply this lorem, you can see we got this lorem printing right here with Bootstrap enabled. Pay attention, you can see the font has changed and we don't have any margins around this item. But if we get rid of this Bootstrap link and the JavaScript, you can see it's going to be different. So let's get rid of this item right here and let's start our coding with our navbar. And for that, we're going to create simply nav tag right here, and inside of this, we're going to have our codes for our navbar. But pay attention, when we want to use Bootstrap, we're not going to use that in another file. Actually, it's a bunch of classes that we're going to use inside of each tag. For example, here in the nav, we can use this navbar right here. And because we want to have our dark background for our navbar, what we can have is this pg-dark. And this is basically going to give us dark background for the navbar. And now if we come and check, you can see we got this little bar up in our web page, which is our navbar. And if we got something inside of this navbar, for example, some simple h1 of this test, if we come again, you can see it got bigger. But if you highlight this text, you can see we got this, but because it has the same color as the navbar background, it can't be shown. And for that, what we need to do, we need to use Bootstrap's rules on navbars, which first of all, we need to have a container. And if we check the website of Bootstrap for that, here you can see we got these containers in the layout. Containers are basically building block of Bootstrap, which contains our other elements, and that can be in these sizes that you can see right here. Which if we use this class of simple container, it's going to be as same as this container-small, which is going to be 100% if our width is below this number, it's going to be this. If it's above this number, below this number, it's going to be 720 if it's between medium and large. And it's going to have this width if it's between this and this. And of course, at the last, it's going to be this width if it's between 1200 and 1400. And for our example here, we're going to use our simple container. And for doing that, we need to add that to a div. So we use this .container right here to create a div with class of container. And inside of this, we can put our items. And the first thing that we want to add to our navbar is the logo and the name of the brand. And for that, we need to wrap those two items in another div. And that div should have the class of navbar brand. So we're going to have this navbar-brand right here. And inside of this, we're going to have this image, which don't need any classes. And for the source, it's going to be inside of our assets, and then this logo.png. And for the alt, we're going to have the simply logo. And now if we check that, you can see we got our logo coming right here, but this is not the size that we want. Actually, we can have this height of, let's say, 50 pixel here. And if we come and check again, you can see it's going to be like this. And then we need to add the name of our brand. And for that, we're going to have this anchor tag right here with the class of, again, this navbar-brand. And for the href, we're going to use this sharp for now. And here we're going to have this Webco Corp. Now, if we come here, you can see we got this dark Webco Corp right here. But we don't want this item to be this dark, and we want this text to be light. And for fixing that, here in our nav, we're going to add another class right here. And that's going to be this navbar-dark. And this is going to simply make the theme for our navbar dark and make the color of the text light instead of dark. So after we're finishing this, we can come back here and create our menu. And for that, inside of our container, we're going to have another tag right here. And that's going to be our unordered list with the class of navbar-nav. And if we click this, inside of this, we're going to have list items with the class names of nav-item. And here, for example, we can have this item 1, item 2, and item 3. And if we come here, you can see if we highlight this, we got these items. But because we're going to use links inside of our list items, instead of these simply items putting right here, we're going to use again this anchor tag. And again, for class of this, we're going to have this nav-link. And I'm going to put the href of sharp for all of them for now, and same items for the text. And now if we check here, you can see we got this kind of result in our output, which if we hover on them, it's going to glow a little bit, but this is not good way, and we don't want to show this type of menu for our user. And for fixing that, here in our nav tag, we're going to add another class. And that is going to be this navbar-expand. And then we got another dash. And here we're going to put the size that we want our navbar to decide to show the mobile view or desktop view. And for knowing the pixels and size, you can come here into Bootstrap website, and these are the size that you can decide. For example, I want to use this large and this 992 pixels, so I'm going to use this large. And for that, what we need to do here is having this -lg. And now here, if we come into our web page, you can see these items fixed, and now we got our items and menu items right here. But if we want to check that in mobile view, you can have this inspect, and it brings us this developer tools, and here you can turn on this part to be able to show the mobile view for you. And if you shrink this below that number, pay attention, here is the number, and if we come down of our large breakpoint, you can see this is the type it's going to show to us. And for fixing that, of course, we need to have our hamburger menu button for our navbar in our mobile views. So here, after our navbar brand, we're going to add that button. And that's basically this button. And inside of this button tag, we need several attributes to make this work. The first one is, of course, our class, which we want this navbar-toggler. Then we want to make the type our button to be simply this button. And then we're going to have this data-bs-toggle, and we equal this with this collapse word, which I'm going to tell you what this does for us in a minute. And then after that, we're going to have another attribute, and that's going to be this data-bs and then -target. And this is going to have the ID of the container of our menu. So we need to put our menu and list inside of a division. So for example, here we can have this div with the ID of navbar-nav. And then we need to put this UL inside of this div. And for fixing the spaces and make your code prettier, you can use this Ctrl-A and Shift-Alt and F at the same time to make your code prettier in VS Code. And now let's come back to our button and fill the other parts and other attributes. So we're going to put this navbar-nav right here, and then we're going to have this area controls to be this navbar-nav again, and as well as that, we're going to use this area-expanded and make that this false. And then inside of this button, we're going to have this span, and this is going to have this class of navbar-toggler-icon. And now if we check our web page, you can see we got this little button right here in our mobile view, which if we click, nothing happens, because here in our data-bs-target, we need to put sharp before of our tag's ID. So it's navbar-nav. For our ID, we need to have this navbar-nav, but this sharp before of that name and ID. And now this time, if we come here again, if we click this, you can see it's shown. And if we click again, it's going to be hidden. And if we come to the large part, you can see we don't have that button, but as you noticed, we don't have our navbar too. And for fixing that, here inside of this division that we just created, wrapping our menu items for us, we're going to have this class, of course, and inside of this, we're going to use two class names. First one is going to be this collapse, and second one is going to be this navbar-collapse. And now if we come back to here, you can see we got our items right here. And if we shrink our web page, you can see we got this button right here, which if we click on this, you can see our items coming right here. And now let's fix these names that we got right here. So the first one is going to be home. Second one is going to be features. Third one is going to be pricing. And let's add another list item here. And this one is going to be our contact. So we change this to contact. And if we check again, you can see we got these items right here. But you might want to change the direction and place of your items inside of your navbar. So you don't want it starts from here. If you bring up this inspect, and let's come back to the desktop mode. Here in the body, if we hover on this nav, you can see it highlights all of the navbar for us. But inside of this, you can see we got this container. And if we hover on this, you can see this blue part, which is our container. And if you want that to be 100, what you can do is here inside of our navbar, then inside of this div, which we have this container, we can have this container fluid. And this time it's going to be 100% of the width and not only that small part. And of course you can have your SM, which was as same as the before that we saw, or you can have your large container, which is another option that you got. and you can use basically anything that you want. And if you want to add other types of hovering animations to these menu items that you got, what you can do here inside of your UL, you can have this class names to set those items. For example, you can have this nav-underline, and if you got this, if you hover on these items, you can see this little underline appears on the item that you hovered on. And then if you want to move these items to the right side instead of this left side, what you can do here again in this UL, you can have this ms-auto. And this simply moves your menu items to the right side instead of the left side. But let's say we want to add another drop down here in our pricing, for example. So for that, what we need to do, we can come here into the pricing item that we got right here. And then here in our anchor tag, we want to add another class into this tag. And that's going to be our drop down dash toggle. And by only having this, if we come back into our web page, you can see this time we got this little arrow beside of our name. But if we click on this, nothing is going to happen. And that's because we need to make this A to act as button for us. So we're going to add this role attribute and we're going to use this button right here. But again, we want this item to toggle and show something for us, of course. And that's where we need to add another container and list for our dropdowns. So below of our anchor tag, inside of the same list item, we're going to have another unordered list with the class name of dropdown-menu. And then inside of this, we're going to have again list item, which this doesn't need any class names, but inside of this, we're going to have this anchor tags, and those are going to have the class names of dropdown-item. And here we can have the href. I'm going to put this sharp right here. And then for the text, I'm going to have the simply item 1 and make that 3 times to be item 2 and item 3. And then here in our anchor tag, we need to add this data-bs-toggle, and we equal that with this dropdown. And pay attention, we don't need to add this dropdown ID to here. It's going to be simply this dropdown. And if we come here and click on this, you can see our dropdown is going to show like this. And if we want to check that in our mobile form, so we got this mobile form. If we click on this, it's going to show us these items. And if we click on this pricing, it's going to show us these items as well. And now let's get back to our desktop mode. And let's actually create our actual website after our navbar. And for that, the first thing that we're going to have is our hero section. So I'm going to use this arrow beside of the tag and the number to make this whole nav tag in just 2 lines. And I'm going to come here and start coding my hero section. And for that, I'm going to use simply division, and I'm going to use some simple CSS right here. So I'm going to have this class of hero-section. And if you come above here in your head part, we can have this style tag right here. And inside of this, we want to add the background and how we want that item to be shown. So we're going to select our class name. It's going to be this hero-section. And we want background image for this item, of course. It's going to be this URL, and it's going to be inside of our assets. And here we got this hero.png. And then we can have this background repeat to no repeat. Then we can have this background size, and we want this to be covered, not contain. And we can have some padding here too. We want 8 rem for the up and down and 0 for the size. And this is what we got until now. And we can have this background position, and we can have this Y to use the Y axis and make this simply the center. And you can see now it's in the center, and actually we can make this 15 rem for now for better showing. This is good. And now let's come and start coding items inside of our hero section. And let's add this color of white for our text inside of this item too. And now here in our hero section, we want to use our items. And the first thing that we want to have is simply this H1. And here, for example, we want to have this build great things. And if we check this, you can see we got this here, but we want this one to be at center. And for the centering thing with Bootstrap, what we can do is simply having this text-center class for that item. And you can see we got this item right here, but we can change this h1 too. So we're going to have some classes for this. The first one is going to be this display-1. And if we check that, you can see it makes the size of the text larger. Then what we can do is making that bold. And for that, we're going to use this FW-bold. And by having this, you can see it's bold now. And then we can have some margin bottoms. And for margin bottom, what we can do is MB-3. And that's going to give us some extra spaces right here. And then after this H1, we're going to have simply paragraph. And let's put this text right here. And if we check again, you can see this is our paragraph. But again, we want to change something in this. So we're going to have this class. And if we add this lead class, you can see it has changed the size of the font and made it visually better. So we're going to stay with that. And now let's come into our code again and have another margin bottom of 3 right here. And here we can have 2 buttons as our call to actions. And for that, we're going to use our anchor tags here. But we're going to use this class of btn at first. And for the text, let's say the first one is this explore features. And if we check, you can see it's this, but we don't want this to be dark. So what we can do is after using this btn, we want to have another btn-light, which makes our text and our button light form like this. Then we can change the size of that. So we're going to have this button-lg to make that large button instead of that little one. And actually we can make this twice. So we got this, and we can add this me-2. And if we do this, you can see we got some spaces between of these buttons. And that's because of this item, not this item. We don't have that me here. And if we got this me-2 here too, you can see it only moves to the left from this size. So we undo that item. And now let's change the appearance of our second button. We don't want both of these items to be at the same look. And for this, instead of this btn-light, we want to add this btn-outline-light. And by having this, you can see this is a little bit different, and it only has this outline instead of filling the whole thing. And for example, for the inner text, we can have this watch demo, for example. And here it is, our hero background and hero section here. And actually we can make this little now. So this is it. And now let's move on to our next part, which let's say here we want to show our features, and we want to have some cards for showing features of our website or our company. So we come down here and we close our hero section right here. And actually it's good that we use section tag here instead of that div because it's another section. And let's come into another section and create our second one right here. And because we want to see the things inside of this, first I'm going to have the simply lorem right here to have this random word to see this is our part. And we can have some classes right here to use our Bootstrap. For example, we can have py-5, which this means we want padding in y-axis, which means in the top and bottom, and we want the size of 5 for that. So it gives us this for the top and bottom. And actually we can give this some color too. For example, if we got this bg-dark, you can see it's like this, or we can have this bg-light, which you can see it's like this, and it's a little bit different than white. But now instead of this lorem, let's have another container, because in this part we don't want our items to be all the way to 100 width, and we want our items to be centered in this part, for example. So we're going to have this div and class of container. And then inside of this container, we can have this h2, and this can have this class of text center again to centering that. So if we check this, actually we don't have anything in the h2. So for example, let's say we got this powerful features, and if we come here, you can see there it is. And let's actually have the display for this item too, but instead of this 1, let's make that 4, and we can see this is it. We got our title for this part and this section of our website, and actually we can have another margin bottom of 5 right here too. And after our H2, let's say we want to use cards right here, for example, one card here, and another card right here, and we fill those items with our 3 main features. And for that, we're going to use our grid box. And for setting grid box, what we need to do is having our main div right here, which this one is going to have this class, which is defining our row. So it's a row. And then we're going to have this row dash calls dash 1. And this part and this class here is going to tell us which number of columns do you want to show in this row. We set to this 1 for the general view, but we can have this row dash calls dash md dash 3, for example. And this means for the size of the medium, use 3 cards instead of this 1. So it's going to show us 3 cards until it's medium, and when it got below medium, it's going to show us only 1 card. And here we want to create our columns. Well, first for the column, we want to have this division, of course, but we want to use this class of col. And here we can have, for example, this test word, and if we come here, you can see this test, and if we want to have simply dark background here, so we got this bg.dark here. If we come here, you can see this is one of our items. And of course, we can have 3 of those. And if we come here, you can see we got 3 items. And because these 3 items are next to each other, we can't see those items. But if we use this pointer right here, if we hover on this, you can see this is our 3rd one, this is our 2nd one, and this is our 1st. So now let's come back here and let's actually create a card instead of this random test word. And well, for that, first we're going to get rid of this PG dark, and inside of our col, we're going to have another division, which this one is going to have this class of card right here. And by only having this, you can see we got some little shadows right here. And here we can have this shadow-sm, which is going to give us a small shadow around our box. And then inside of this div, we can have our card body. And that's going to be again another div with the class name of card-body. And here inside of this, we can have, for example, this h5 right here, say our feature 1. And if we come back here, you can see we got this card, but we want to make the text inside of this card center. So next to our card body, we're going to have this text-center. And now if we come back here, you can see we got our feature 1 at the center of our card. And then after this h5, we're going to have another paragraph, which let's say we got this lorem 100 here, which if we check, that's lots of words. So let's make that lorem 30. And here you can see our card right here. And here we can have this class of card-text. And if we check back this, it's going to be a little nicer with the alignments. And we can do the same thing for our h5 too. So this is going to be card, not text, but the title. And again, this is what we got. And of course, we can have some display here too. For example, this display of not 1, let's say 5. And after this, we can just grab this column and make that 3 times. And if we check this, you can see we got 3 cards right here. And if we fix the text inside of those, so this was feature 1, this is feature 2, and this one is feature 3. And if we check again, you can see we got our 3 features right here. And after these items, we can close our section of features, which we can have this comment right here, which we tell this is our features. And this was our hero, and this is basically our navbar. And now for the next part, let's say we want to add a row containing a form that user can send and submit his or her email. And for that, actually let's have this comment of form right here, and then we're going to have this section, of course, and let's actually have the class name and make the background dark. And if we have this test word right here, if we come here, you can see we got this part right here as our third section. And well, for this, let's say we want to have simply this text dash white, which this is going to make the text of our section to white. So you can see this test right here. And let's have some paddings. For example, this P5 is good, I guess. And now instead of this test, let's actually create our form. Well, we got our form right here. For now, we're going to skip this action, and this is going to have this input type of email right here. Again, let's remove this ID and name because we're not going to actually create backend server for receiving and sending these items. We're just creating UI. You can see it's this until now. And after this input, we want to have another input type of button here. And we can have this value of submit, for example, which you can see we got this until now. But we're going to use Flexbox for creating this part. And we're going to use that in this form. So we're going to have our classes, and for using display of flex, we're going to have this D as display, and we use this dash and flex. And by only having this is going to change to Flexbox. And because we want that to be a little bigger, so we're going to use this container here. As you can see, it moved from there to here. And we can have this W-50, which this W50 means we want our form to be 50% of the width it has available. So we make the width of this form to 50%. Then inside of this input, we're going to have our class, of course. So this is our class, and here we're going to use this form dash control. And you can see by having that, our form field and input field got bigger like this, that we can click on this and it got this nice focus border around it like this. But you can see it's very near to this button. And now let's fix our button. So here we're going to have our class again. It's going to be button. We're going to use our button type and color of primary. And if you ask what is that, let me write this first. You can see it now, it's blue right here. And let's have this margin X, which means margin on the sides. And let's give this 3 right here. And that's good. Now, if we come back into Bootstrap website, if you come down here into the colors, you can see it got some colors built in for better and simpler use right here. Which this blue one is the primary, this gray one is secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light and dark. We already used this light and dark in several parts of our web page, but we can use these items right here too. And wherever we use, for example, that BG dash some color, we can use these items too. For example, what I mean is you can see in the features section, we got this BG dash light. For example, we want to have this blue background instead of that. So instead of this light, we can use this info. And by having that, if we check our web page, you can see it changed to this item. And as well as this, for example, we can have this warning. And if we check, it's going to be this yellow and going on. So these are the colors that we can use. And for this color of our button, we use this primary color right here. And now let's come back to our code. And actually we finished our form part and section. So we close this item here too. And if you check here, our navbar is moving up when we coming down. And to fix this item, if we want to show our navbar always stick to the top of our web page, and when we scroll down, it still be in this part and not scrolling up, we can do it by only one class. And that's here in our nav, of course. And here we're going to have this sticky dash top. And now by having that, you can see if I scroll down, it's still here and not scrolling up anymore. And now after this form and our navbar and these 3 sections, let's move on to our third section. Which in this part, we're going to have some accordions to show some questions or maybe give some details to our user from our website. So for that, here let's have this comment section again, and this is our accordion part and section. And then here we're going to have another section, of course. And now here inside of this section, we don't want to have anything inside of this section for now. And actually we want to start creating our accordion. And for that, what we need to do is simply having this div right here, and this is going to have some classes, of course. And the first one is going to be this accordion. And then inside of this div, we're going to have our accordion items. So it's going to be another division, and this is going to have this class of accordion-item. And this accordion item is going to have two items, which are accordion header and accordion body. So for accordion header, we're going to have this h2 with the class name of accordion-header right here, which if we have this test word here, if we come here, you can see we got this test, but there's nothing like accordion right here. And that's because we need to have button for opening and closing our accordion part. And for that, we're going to put that inside of our h2 right here. So we're going to have this button, and it's very similar to the thing that we got with our hamburger bar and hamburger menu in our Navbar with the mobile view and desktop view. It's going to have this class, and this is the main difference actually. Here we're going to have this accordion-button. Then we want to have this collapse. Here we're going to have this type to be button here. We want data BS toggle to be collapse. Then we're going to have this data BS target. And we want this one to be the idea of our division that we're going to put our accordion body inside of that. So for this, I'm going to use this ACC1 as shorthand for accordion 1. Then we can have this area dash expanded to be true, and this area dash controls to collapse 1 right here. And then inside of this button is where we're going to put our name and title for that accordion and that item and that question. For example, we got this question number 1. And now after this, we come down outside of h2 but still inside of our accordion item. And here is where we're going to create our division with the ID of this accordion 1. So we're going to have this div with the ID of ACC1 right here, and this is going to have this class of accordion-collapse, then this collapse. And then inside of this, we're going to have another division, and this is our accordion body. And here we can have some words, let's say lorem 50 right here. And now here if we check, there's nothing showing. Let's see what's our error. Actually, we misspelled this accordion here and we ran with this all the way on. So we need to change all of these accordions and fix them. And for doing that, we're going to use Control F right here. And we're going to replace this accordion with misspelled A instead of O with the right way here. So we got this and we replace all of them. And now if we check again, still we don't have the result. And now let's find that bug too. And that's because here we don't want to have collapse. We want to have this collapsed, and we forgot to have this D right here. And now by having that, you can see we got our accordion right here with this button right here, which if we click, it's going to show us this item. But we don't want this one to be 100 width, and let's fix that item by Bootstrap again. And well, for that, we can come here into our main accordion, and here we can have this width of 50%. So if we check again, it's 50% right now, it's until here. And then we can have this m-auto right here. And by having that, it's going to come to here into the center of our section. And then we can come here again. And let's have actually margin top and bottom to this 5. So if we check again, it's right here now. You can see we got our accordion right here. And this is our question number 1 with this little cool animation. And if we want to have another items, we can just duplicate this item as many times as we want. For example, I make that 3 times. And the thing is very important here. You can see if this time you click on this, all of them opens. And if we click, all of them are going to close. Because all of the data targets, area controls, and IDs are ACC1. So we want to make sure the first one is 1. The second one is going to be this 2. As well as this one and this one too, and we're going to do the same thing for the third one too. So this is going to be ACC1, ACC3, and again ACC3. And now this time if we come here, if we put this number 1, only number 1 opens. If we click on number 2, only that opens. And if we click on number 3, only that opens. And if we want to close each of them, only that one closes. And actually we need to change the titles here too. So let's come here. For the first one, let's say we want to use this sharp 1. For the second one, we want to use this sharp 2. And then for the third one, we want to use this sharp and 3. And now here you can see we fixed that item 2. But in some cases, you want to be able to open only one of them. And when, for example, you have this number 1 open, and if you want to open this number 2, you want this number 1 closes automatically while this number 2 opening. And for that, what we need to do is having ID for our accordion div right here. And this is going to be our ID of accordion, for example, 1. And we want to have this attribute of data bs parent in which item that we want that situation. And let's do that in our third item. So we're going to come here into our third accordion item, and we're going to come into this div after our h2, the div containing our accordion body, and we're going to have this data-bs-parent, and we equal that with the sharp and ID of our accordion that we put just moments ago, which was this accordion-1. And now this time if we come here, if we open our accordion number 1, it's going to open. If we do the same thing with number 2, it open. But when we're going to open accordion number 3, it's going to close these items automatically while opening. Just like this. And of course we can do and set the same thing for those items too. We just need to copy this attribute right here and add that to these items too. And by having those, if we come here, we can only open one of these items at a time. But I want to make that to be only in accordion number 3 and not all of my accordions. And now let's close this section with accordion and let's move on to the next section. And in this next section, we want to have similar thing to this part. We want 3 cards, but with a little bit different in the user interface. So we're going to have our comment, which this is our image cards right here. Then inside of this, again, we're going to have our section. And we're going to have this class for sections, and for start we want this padding of 5 around our section, and we want this to be container just like this. We can have this test word right here. If we check, you can see we got this container, and let's actually have this text at the center. So we got this right here, and let's create our card. So for start, we're going to have this division. And you might know some things from cards until now. We're going to have this class. It's going to be this card. And because we want to have image here, we're going to use this image. The source is going to be assets and card image right here. This is basically card image. And for the class, we need to have this card-image-top. And if we check that, you can see this is what we got until now, but this is too big. So let's fix that. We can come here into our card right here, and let's fix that using our inline CSS. So we got this style attribute, and then here we can have this width to be this 18 rem, for example. And if we come here again, you can see now the size is fixed. And if you pay attention, here you can see you got corners of your card and image curve and rounded. Now let's come back into our code and let's do other stuff that we need to have. After our image, we're going to have our other division with the class name of card-body. And here, let's say again, we got this h5 with the class name of card-title, and here is our card title, of course. And then after this we can have this paragraph with the class name of card-text, and here we can have the simply lorem 20 right here. And if we check our card, this is our card until now. And now after this p, we can have another anchor tag as our button. So we want this sharp as our link, and then we can have this class. Let's use our btn and btn-primary for the color. And if we check that, this is the color scheme. And for the text, let's say we want to put this go somewhere. Now if we check, this is our card right here. And let's say we want to have 3 cards and not only 1. So we duplicate this item 3 times. And now if we check, you can see we got 3 cards stacked above of each other. But we don't want our cards to be like this. The first thing that we can do is using our grid box and fix them just like this as you saw earlier. But the next thing and other thing that we can use to show that in the order that we want is using Flexbox. And well, for that, as you know from this part that we used Flexbox, we can come here into our section and we can use this d-flex, which means we want this part to display as flex. And then here in each of our card division, if we add this m-auto right here, and let's copy this and put that here and here too. If we check our web page, you can see this is the result that we got, which is very good and very responsive. So if we got this to be in responsive mode, let's create this. You can see it changed the width and fit for our page width. But let's say we got our second card as new item and we want to add a little new badge here next to its title. And for that, what we can do here, let's come into our second card, which is this division right here. And here next to our card title, inside of our H5, we can have this span with this word of new inside of it. So we got this new right here, and then we can come into class of our span tag right here. And here we can have this badge, and by only having this, if we come here, you can see we got something right here and our new word. But this don't have this background that we want, so we want to have this text-bg-warning. And if we come back here, you can see we got this little badge of new right here. And let's say we want to add the best one for the first. So we're going to come into first one. Here we're going to have this span again. And this is the best one. And again, here we got this class. And again, we got this badge. And let's say we want to have this text-bg- and let's say this one we want to be green instead of that yellow. And this is the best one that we got. Now for the next part and next section, we're going to create a button that triggers sidebars from left of our web page for us that you can use for your shopping cart or moving around or maybe giving some more info to your users. Well, for that, what we need first, after this image cards, let's close this section and let's format and make our code cleaner. So we use Shift, Alt, and F again right here. And let's come here and have our sidebar right here. And here we're going to have this section and we want to make the class to center. And inside of this, we're going to have anchor tag, which is going to act as our button. So we're going to have this class of button. We want to make that blue, so we use this button primary. And if we check, you can see this is our button until now. And we can have this open sidebar right here, which you can see we got here. And for our section, we can have this P-5 right here. So we got that right here. And actually, let's fix this. This was text-center, so it be in the center just like this. And pay attention, this section that we created is only for holding this button for us and not for the actual sidebar. You can put the code of the sidebar anywhere in your HTML, but I'm going to put that inside of this section too. So we're going to start with simple division right here. And the first class that we want to add to this is going to be our off canvas. So we're going to have this off canvas and then this off canvas -start. And then we're going to have this tab index right here. And we want to equal that to this -1 right here. And this is basically for hiding our sidebar until we trigger that. And then after this item, we're going to need this ID, which is going to be our sidebar 1. And then we're going to have this area -labeled by, and we equal this with this sidebar label 1. And then inside of this div, we're going to put sidebar. But first, before that, let's link our anchor tag and button to this sidebar. You see that we got this button right now, which if we click, nothing happens. And we want to link that to the sidebar that we're going to code. And for that, here in our anchor tag, after the class attribute, we're going to have this data-bs-toggle. and we're going to make this off canvas right here. Then we're going to have this href for our anchor tag, of course, and that's going to be the same ID that we put right here. But pay attention, we need to put the sharp before of that. So we got the sharp sidebar right here for our href. And then again, we're going to have this role to be this button. And then we're going to have this area controls. And again, this should be the same as our ID, but with no sharp. So it's going to be the sidebar 1. And by having this, if we come into our web page and come down, if we click on this open sidebar button, you can see we got our sidebar appearing from left just like this. But you can see we don't have anything right here. And if we click outside of this box right here, for example, it's going to disappear automatically. But now let's fix the things inside of our sidebar, which is this part right here. So we're going to have another division right here. Then we're going to have this class, and the first class that we want to put here is this of canvas-header. And inside of this, let's say we want to have this h5 again, and this is going to have the class name of canvas-title, and we should have this ID for this item, and this one and this ID is the same ID that we put in this area labeled by. So we're going to copy this and put that ID right here. And then inside of this h5, we want to put the title that we want for our sidebar. In this case, is going to be our left sidebar. And if we check in our web page, if we click on this, you can see now we got this left sidebar. Now if we come back into our h5, we need to have another button right here to be able to close the sidebar from here with an X2, instead of only being able to close that by clicking outside of the sidebar. So here we're going to have another button here. It's going to have the type to be button, of course. Then it's going to have this class of btn-close, which if we check this, you can see we got this X right here, but if we click, nothing happens. And for making that happen, we're going to have this attribute of data-bs-dismiss, and we equal that with this of canvas. And then we can have this area label, and we equal that with this close. And now by having this, if we come down again, open our sidebar, if we come here and click on this X, it's going to close our sidebar for us. And then if you want to have another things in your sidebar, after this division of off-canvas header, we're going to have this another division, and this is going to have this class of canvas-body. And here you can have anything that you want. For example, let's say we want to have this lorem word and text right here. So we can have, you can see we got this lorem, or you want to have some buttons, for example, this anchor tag of btn and btn dash, let's say secondary. If we come here and open again, you can see we got this button. And if we put, for example, this click me, you can see we got this button right here, and you can fill this up any way that you want. And actually we can add this item into our navbar too. So what we need to do is grabbing this anchor tag that we created right here. So we're copying this, and we're going to come into our nav tag that was in the start of our code. And here we can come into our list items. You can see here we got this contact. After this contact, let's say we got another nav item. And instead of this anchor tag, we want to put the anchor tag that we just copied. You can see we got this open sidebar, which if we click, it's going to open this again for us, as well as this one at the bottom. And if you want to change the color of this, of course, you can do that by simply changing the color of this. For example, we can have this outline light, which is going to be like this, which if we click again, this is going to appear for us. Then the next thing that we're going to talk about is how to creating modal, which pop-ups from the up right here and showing something and giving some information for our user. Well, for that, what we need to do is very similar to the sidebar, but with a little bit of twist. So we can come here into our sidebar section, and let's have this sidebar and Modal. This was our sidebar button, and let's have our sidebar right here, and we can close this item here too. And here, let's say we're going to have this modal button. And for button of the modal and actually triggering it, we're going to use this button. It's going to have this type to be this button again. Then the class, of course, we want this to be button, then button dash primary. And if we check, this is our button. Let's add text to it. It's going to be this open modal. You can see we got this right here. And then we're going to have two popular attributes of data-bs-toggle and data-bs-target. And then here we're going to create our modal. So we're going to have another division here, of course. It's going to have this class of modal. Then for the ID, we're going to put this modal ID. And then we're going to have this data-bs-backdrop this time. And we equal that with this static. Then we're going to have this data-bs-keyboard. And we equal that with false. Then this tab index, we equal that with -1 again to hide from actual page. Then we got area-labeled by, and it's going to be this modal label 1. Now here, let's fix this button. It's going to be this data-bs toggle. So for the toggle one, we're going to put this modal here. And for the target, we're going to grab the ID from this modal. So it's going to be here, and let's add this comment of modal right here. Now if we come into our web page, if we press this, nothing happens, you see, because of course we need to add this sharp before of our target. And now this time if we click, you can see we got this backdrop that cancels our clicks and keyboards, and we can't do anything right here. And you can press this F5 to get back to the original web page. And now let's fix that item. Well, for that here, inside of this division, we're going to create our modal dialog. Until now, we're just setting this backdrop of can't doing anything unless reading and closing modal. And actually, it's good to have this area-hidden to be true too. Now, inside of that division and our modal's backdrop and our division with the class name of modal, which we can have this fade here, which is going to have this fade animation for us, which if we don't have, you can see, if we check, it's going to come instantly. But if we have this fade, it's going to give us with some little animation. So we can come back here, and now let's create our dialog. Well, that's going to be our division. Of course, it's going to have this class, it's going to have this modal-dialog. And then inside of this, we're going to have another division of modal-content. And again, inside of this, we're going to have this h1, let's say, with the class of modal-title. And let's say this is our modal title right here. And let's say we want to have another close button, which is very similar to the sidebar close button. So we can actually copy this from here and come here and paste this, but instead of using this off canvas, we use this modal. And now if we check our web page, you can see if we come down, if we use this open modal, this time we got this little box coming up with this close button, which if we click on this, it's going to go away. But you can see it's a little messed up, and for fixing this, that's because of this text center class that we got in our section. So if we get this modal outside of our section, so we grab this from here and we put that outside of our section. Now if we come here and use this, you can see it changed. And to fix that item 2, actually let's have this fs-5, which means change the font size to the 5. And now if we open this, it's like this. And because we want to put these two items in one line, we can have this division of modal-header and wrap these two items inside of this. Now if we come and open again, you can see now it's fixed. Now we got our button here and our title here. And if we click anywhere outside of that box, you can see it's going to pop up like this and grab the user's attention for itself, and it only can be clicked and get out by using this X button right here. And of course, you can have your modal body right here too. So you can have this modal-body class name for your division, and here you can have this lorem 30 again, for example. If we check again, open modal, this is what we got, and you can have same kind of button right here as well at the end of your body, but you can have this class to be this button and button-danger. So if you check again, that's it. We can have this close here too. So we can check, you can see we got this close, but it's good to have these button in another row here. And that's where our modal footer comes to place. So we can have another division. This is going to have its own classes, and it's going to be this modal-footer. And this is going to contain this button for us. So this time if we come and open our modal, this is our model title. We got our X right here. We got this text, and we can close this by clicking this button. And we can change the appearance of this. So we can have this outline-danger. And this time if we open, it's going to be like this. So we can close it like that. And at the end, at the bottom of our website, let's say we want to have some little footer type copyright info. So let's close these items. After our modal, we're going to have our last section, which is our footer, of course. And here, let's say, again, we use our class of bg-dark. Then we want our text to be white, so we use this one. Then we want our text to be at the center. And we want to have some paddings, let's say for the top and bottom, and 3 is enough. And here I'm going to use a simple paragraph. And for having copyright logo and icon here inside of your footer or web page, you can use this combination of this and, then the copy word, and then the semicolon. And if we check that, you can see you got this copyright right here. And you can have, for example, this 2025 Webco Corp. And then, of course, we got this all rights reserved. And now we can check that. But you can see we got some additional margin bottom, and we can fix this by simply having this class of margin bottom and set that to 0. And now you can see we got our web page finished fully with Bootstrap and with only one HTML file and 3 photos. And you can do this with your own with no JavaScript. We got our sidebar opening from here. We got our pricing drop down right here. Then you saw that we got our mobile view right here to be responsive, that we got its pricing drop down right here too. And you can close this again and use as desktop. You can see we got our hero background and hero section right here with these call to actions, these cards, this form, this awesome accordions that we can open this and this one at the same time. But when we opening this third one, it's going to close other 2 ones. Then we got this awesome image cards with this badge of best and new right here. And at the last, we got this open sidebar, which we can open. And it can close by this X button, or we can close that if we click anywhere else like here. And then we got our modal opening just up above right here, which this time it's not closing. When we click outside of it, it's just growing a little bit and grabbing the user's attention to read that, and then we can close this again with this close button or with this X. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if this video was helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can check the channel for other programming videos for web development or basically programming, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to be aware of the next videos coming up. See you in the next one.